Well, if the board doesn't have any further comments at this point, I'll actually go for public comment. And I understand that the Auditor-Controller said she has a number of staff here. I do see some in the panel. Lene Henderson.
My name is Lene Henderson. I work in the Office of the Auditor-Controller, and I've been an employee of Humboldt County for over 32 years. 2 years ago, I was moved to DHHS Financial Services. I started shortly after Karen Paz Dominguez took office. I remember my coworkers were submitting journals, but struggling to answer requests for clarification and documentation from the Auditor-Controller's accounting staff. I was attempting to complete my own journals, but nobody could help me learn or explain anything to me. I had problems understanding the requests, and my corrections were insufficient most of the time. How could I clarify something I didn't understand myself? Communications were strained, and the Auditor-Controller and her staff were repeatedly vilified in my office. This was not constructive, and I wondered why the new auditor inspired such contempt. I learned about a sharp reduction of DHHS fiscal staff due to several retirements in the few years before I arrived. It seems inadequate preparation for the vacancies left current employees struggling without clear instruction or adequate training. The Auditor-Controller is not at fault for dysfunction at DHHS. The problem lies with loss of institutional memory and unsupported employees. I've worked for Karen for almost a year and believe she is very qualified and a distinct change from the men that have held the office. In my view, her most important qualification is a commitment to integrity and ethics, but her success seems to have been thwarted at every turn by this board, the CAO, and some department heads. You will probably decide to spend more taxpayer dollars for a consultant to come in to make a predetermined conclusion. But remember, the people elected an Auditor-Controller who ran on a platform that promotes accountability and transparency to the residents of Humboldt County. I am troubled by the need to express myself here, but I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Lene. The next is Jim Hussey. Welcome.
Good morning, Honorable Board of Supervisors, and thank you for giving me a chance today. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can, James.
Oh, all right, thank you. My name is Jim Hussey, and I'm a senior accountant with the Auditor-Controller's Office at the County of Humboldt. And I would like to address the issues brought up today by the Humboldt County Association of Governments. The issues that the AC office has had with HCOG predate the Auditor-Controller's tenure with our office. Previously, HCOG used to keep their money in the Humboldt County Treasury and had an agreement with the Auditor-Controller's Office to process their accounts payable transactions. Previous to my time at the Auditor-Controller's Office, the accounts payable team was made up of 3 employees, 2 full-time and 1 part-time. When I was hired in 2012, that number was reduced by 1/3. This drop in staffing, along with outdated software and inefficient check processing procedures, made it difficult for the AP staff to process payments in a timely manner. During this time, the Auditor-Controller, the Honorable Joseph Mellett, would regularly make requests for increased staffing during the presentation of yearly financials. They understood that with our staffing levels, a single illness or departure would completely derail our organization. This event occurred in 2015 when the second accounts payable staff person retired, leaving us with only 1 staff person to process all of the accounts payable transactions for all of the county departments, JPAs, and special districts. The rest of the AP staff assisted as feasible, but despite our efforts, it still resulted in the delay of payments. This delay was detrimental to HCOG's operations, and they chose to pull up the money out of the county treasury, resulting in a loss of revenue to the Auditor-Controller. Had the board heeded our call for additional staff back then, we may have been able to maintain this mutually beneficial relationship. Fast forward to today, and we are in a similar situation. While recent staff increases have brought our AP staff back to previous levels, we are now currently facing a similar situation with our accounting staff. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a heavy toll on our office, and as I'm currently the only senior accountant in the office, and our accounting staff has been reduced to 3. This means my time is spread out across many duties, of which HCOG is one. Due to our low staff numbers, AC staff has been working nights and weekends and had a vacation moratorium put in place during the summer. Despite the time-saving measures we put into place, we are still unable to keep up with the level of work needed to provide adequate service to our customers, including HCOG. Our staff is at a level where any leave of absence is catastrophic to our office, resulting in stress and illness, thus causing further delays. This has required that the work that we do for HCOG is limited to exactly what is required by the Transportation and Development Act, which has resulted in additional work for the HCOG staff and some delays caused by the transition. Even then, it is difficult to meet those requirements despite working overtime on nights and weekends. In conclusion, I would like to take this opportunity to ensure HCOG that it is our office's desire to provide the best quality work possible and to do so in a timely fashion. Therefore, it is my request that the Executive Director and the Board of HCOG support the Auditor-Controller in her desire to hire additional staff to a level commensurate with other counties of our size. Thank you for giving me the time to talk today.
Welcome.
Morning, Honorable Board. I was hired by the Auditor-Controller's office in early March of 2020, but due to the COVID restrictions, I wasn't able to start there. I started working at the EOC and had worked there for 5 months. So the Auditor-Controller's office was short-staffed for 5 months because I was in a different location. I've been a public servant for 30 plus years. I have worked with administration. I have been a classified employee and also classified management. I've been a member of negotiations team, budget committee, safety committee, and health benefits committee. So I have a little bit of experience in a lot of areas. And I know people don't like change, but you shouldn't keep doing something because you've always done something. If it's no longer efficient or no longer legal, it needs to change. And Karen has done those things. There are things that I had been doing in Santa Barbara County as an accounting person since 2000 that Karen just recently was able to implement here. And when I was working at the EOC, she was giving weekly updates and having meetings so that everyone could come in and see if they needed anything to be done. When we switched over to the new system, Karen offered training for everyone, for all of the financial people, anybody that had anything to do with finance enterprise. But one of the things that I did notice there at the EOC, and it was a wonderful experience, please don't get me wrong, I was able to meet people I never would have met. But I also saw things, happening there, and it made me a little nervous to join the Auditor-Controller's group because people were saying things that were not flattering. But the longer that I worked there, the more that I found that it was not due to the Auditor-Controller's office. There were contracts that hadn't been signed that people were turning in invoices for. One of the vendors in our community, the county had been using since April and had no signed agreement until August. And in that signed agreement, the vendor and the board agreed that they would not be paid until the county received reimbursement. However, the vendor got a hold of one of the supervisors, and the supervisor and this person pushed to get this money way before it was actually agreed to. I've also seen the invoices coming from the outside. Please, I've only been there for 2 months now, that have been turned in 2 years later. And
sorry, Cynthia, that's your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other employees who would like to speak before I go to the general public?